Mm. Welcome to anybody that's watching the replay. We are going to be talking today about life, perspective, illumination, all of the things. So let's dive in. I'm Aurora. If we've never met before, if this is your first time catching us on YouTube or even here in the Radiant Evolution Collective, and I'm here with a beautiful soul sister and dear friend, Nicole Rose, or her superhero name, Radiant Soul Nicole, which is so true. But I also want to say, if you had a Care Bear name, it would be Radiant Heart Nicole.
I love that. I totally would be that.
What would be my Care Bear name?
Light beam was what was coming to my mind. Love it.
Light beam. My birth name, surprise, surprise, is not Aurora Light. It's Casey Knight. I still go by that. So if anyone calls me Casey, like that's totally fine. That's divine. I am still that, but I'm also multidimensional. And Aurora Light is the frequency that I want to embody. And it was a name that was actually given to me by a beautiful Huna and galactic liaison. And she didn't know me. And I laughed and laughed and laughed when she gave that to me, because at the time I was doing a lot of literal dancing with light and also energetically. So it's fun to be able to play with all of that. And I think talking about perspectives, like we're going to today, just like about how perspective is everything. The ability to hold more than one perspective at once is a thing that I really enjoy talking about how so much is paradoxical, especially when it comes to all of the spiritual stuff that we are exploring, right? These concepts, they're sometimes almost contradictory energetically until you zoom out enough that you can see that it's from that level of perspective. It can be more than one thing at a time. In fact, most things are more than one thing at a time. But when we are really zoomed in and we're focused on one detail, it can be really difficult to see the all that is, or how two things can exist at the same time. And that zoomed in perspective is essential, though, to be able to really fully understand whatever that one perspective is. So it's like, not that one ever is better. And when we're talking about zooming out and zooming in, it's not higher or lower in terms of better or worse. It's just literally, where are you looking at something from? Really close up, or are you zooming out to that eagle perspective, or then to like the galactic perspective, the universal perspective, the multiversal perspective, the cosmic infinite, all that is perspective, right? Or all the way zoomed into the atomic level. And here's the thing that's also really like mind blasting, that zooming in and zooming out capacity all gets you to the same place eventually. If you zoom out as far as you can possibly go, you suddenly get to the quantum field, the unified field of oneness of the all that is, that underpins all of creation. And you could also get there by zooming in, like as far as you can go beyond the subatomic, you will wind up at the same place. So it's very holographic and fractalized, and I'm excited to chat about it. I don't know what's going to come through today. What are your thoughts, Nicole?
Yeah, I'm excited to chat too. And I also just love listening to you speak about all of this stuff, because I feel like I can experience all that. And I'm like, it's amazing. And it feels so good when you're in that like infinite realm of possibility, where you're super in that expansive state, and also that zooming inwards. It is both things at the same time. It's so fascinating. But it's sometimes, for me, it feels like it's beyond words to be able to speak into it. So yeah, I just love hearing you speak about it. What do I want to say about perspective? So today, my soul care advent calendar invitation is to reframe things. And that is an important aspect of why we might want perspective, because maybe we want to choose something different, and having some perspective shows us that maybe what we've been choosing intentionally or unintentionally isn't what we actually want, and we get to choose something different. And when you're able to zoom out, you can see how you can create from that bigger perspective, and yeah, be able to choose something different in your life, which is just so powerful, having a choice where you didn't think you previously had one, and having somebody show you that there's a different choice and things don't just have to be one particular way. And I think it's also so important for people to see the zoomed out higher perspective, because I think that's where so many issues that are present on this planet right now are coming from, is people not having the ability to see that zoomed out perspective of things and be able to hold both at the same time. And that is such an interesting paradox as well. I was kind of feeling into that recently about, well, the reason why it's both true is because we are physical humans in this physical world. So the 3D reality truths are true. Plus, we're also these infinite creator beings, and that's also true. So it's just, how do you learn to actually be able to see both of those things at the same time and hold those as both truths at once, when we've been told for much of our lives, likely, that it's only one thing. And if you're not following that specific narrative that the mainstream is giving you, then then it's wrong. It has to be one or the other. But I'm so excited that we're moving out of this place of duality in that way, where everything can be true.
Yeah, it's like moving into this multidimensional perspective and awareness. And that's, I think, really what's happening to humanity right now and to individuals. And we've been working on it for a while. And it's that literal ability to be aware of all of it at once, or at least aware that it exists, right? And our consciousness is like this radio tuner, right? Like we can shift our frequency, we can shift our perspective. Once we know that we have the dial, we can tune in or out, we can like zoom in and zoom out, and it's really fun. And the more I practice, the more I notice that I can hold more perspectives at once. Even like not just talking about like, this is true and this is true and this is true, but even in like meditations and visions, it used to be that I could, when I learned how to meditate when I was like, I don't know, 16 years old, I was like, oh, wow, I can be in my body and I can also witness me. And it was like this revelation to be the witness, to have this me and then one witness me. And now I'll find that in just different visionary experiences, I'd be like, cool, there's this me, and then there's also this me, and then there's this me, and then there's this me, and it's multidimensional from different levels of perspective and different dimensions and different past lives and different parallel lives all at the same time. And it's mind melting, but also feels really natural when you get to that space, and it's a practice, right? So it's not that we could all of a sudden just be like, I see all of it right now, without our minds literally just exploding. It would be too much. So this is something that we're working our way up to, I feel like.
So the other night I was on TikTok, as I often do in my evenings, and there was this beautiful TikTok about the microcosm and the macrocosm, and how it all reflects each other, so that our cells are like, looks like the nebula, and our lungs and trees are the same, and they're that like mirror reflection of each other, and we're breathing in and the trees are breathing out all at the same time. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I love to send that type of stuff to my husband to see how he responds to it. And he's like, why do you always send me these mind melting things right before bedtime? I'm like, oh, I'm just, just trying to give you these little nudges to widen your perspective a little bit in a loving way, because I think one of his love languages is when I share TikToks with him. Used to be memes and now it's TikTok. Yeah, but it's just so incredible when you look at all of those different aspects of things, and having that multidimensionality perspective is so much fun. It definitely is mind melting. And it's interesting too, because it's not something that you can't access it on the mind level. Your mind just like, you need to move beyond that. I always imagine like just lifting myself up out of that mind level of consciousness and expanding, and then being able to access it more from that point. And sometimes, and to be able to let it bypass the mind is such an interesting thing, because so many of us have been, taught and believe that our mind needs to control the show and run the show. And we have to like convince our mind that actually, if you could just get out of the way, we'll be able to access this infinite multidimensional power of creation that is available to us all the time. So it's so exciting that all of that stuff, all of those old paradigms and things are kind of shifting as more people become aware of what is actually available, this power that is available to us. And so exciting to see or to dream into, I suppose, what could actually, how the world is going to be in a couple of years from now, because it's already changed so much. From when I first had my first awakening in like 2010, and then I, tried to start eating healthier, and I really like kombucha, and it was like I had to go to like a special organic store to buy it. And then all of a sudden, like a few years later, I could buy kombucha in the gas station. And I'm like, this is amazing. Humanity is evolving so much. There's all these little signs that people are looking for, higher level of consciousness of things just in regular life. So I'm excited to see, like, maybe they'll be selling crystals in gas stations. Well, actually sometimes they do, but they're probably more marketed as like gemstones and stuff, but you know what I mean, where I'm going with this. Maybe that stuff will become even more mainstream, and it'll be in more mainstream places, and it'll just be part of our everyday world, and we won't be so weird anymore for believing and doing all the things that we do. What are your thoughts on my ramblings?
I mean, I've been into this stuff my entire life, and definitely feel like there has been a huge evolution and opening of the perspective. I mean, I remember 25 years ago saying that I could talk to crystals on a message board, and someone was like, you have schizophrenia and you need to be hospitalized. And I was like, okay, you are not the people that resonate with this. And now people could certainly hold that perspective still, but there are a whole lot more people who are like, I also talk to rocks. And it really has shifted. And I actually have a lot of friends who have been, and mentors and guides and coaches and healers who've been playing in this stuff. They're in their 60s and 70s. And I've just looked at them and been like, I turned 39 yesterday. I'm in my 40th year. I was actually born 40 years ago, which is weird the way we track birthday systems. But the ones in their 60s, I'm like, thank you for holding these perspectives and starting to anchor it in, so that by the time, I was in my 20s and 30s, it was so much more accepted, because I know that was not the case when you guys were coming of age. And they're like, you have no idea, but you're welcome, right? Like, where it used to be heretical, I don't know how to say that, I've only ever seen it written, phrase to think that, like, you create your reality. And then my guide and mentor, Suze Casey, the developer of belief repatterning, started to develop the system of belief repatterning 30 years ago. And there was already, this is almost 30 years ago, like 80s and 90s. 1995 was just like 5 years ago. So the math might be off. People would say you should think positive because your thoughts affect your health and your experience. And she'd be like, great. And how? Nobody was writing about that. Nobody was talking about it. No one was giving any how. It was so new, right? And so she had to create this whole system herself. Back in the, like, just 20 years ago, it was kind of on the fringes to believe in UFOs still, right? Like the X-Files, do you remember that? That was like, oh, believing in aliens, that's weird. And now most people are like, of course there's aliens. Look at the size of the universe. It would be so incomprehensible for us to believe that we're the only ones over all of time, right? Just the perspective has opened and shifted and widened. And yeah, I live in a bubble sometimes, and I speak to people who do have a great capacity and understanding for all of the stuff, because that's just who I've attracted into my universe. So I can't speak for the whole wider world, but I feel like the metaphysical and spiritual stuff that's in the mainstream now is a really great indicator that it is expanding. And there are people that are like, oh no, now all the girls are into crystals and tarot, and it's too lame and mainstream and it's so basic. And it's like, or are people reclaiming and finding these tools so that they can explore spirituality and grow in that? So that's a really interesting example of like perspective, right? There are people who want to gatekeep and be like, no, it's got to be special, it's got to be hidden, and it's got to be sacred. And that's really old paradigm stuff, because we used to have to keep this stuff secret in this life and in many other lives, so we could stay safe, so we could stay alive, and so that we could pass down the knowledge and the experiences to people who would get it and who would keep it safe. But right now, in this age, in this now, there are no more secrets. I love the internet for having been such a huge catalyst in this. People don't keep secrets anymore. And it's this age of illumination that we are in, where all of the secrets, the shadow stuff, the stuff that is hidden, is being brought to light. And so we can't hide from it anymore. And so again, the perspective could be, oh my gosh, the world is in chaos. Look at everything that's here. And it's like, it was always here. It was always like this. Now we're just seeing it, and that offers us a chance to do something about it. So, you know, being able to do this, zoom in and zoom out and consider things from different perspectives, including the modernization of, you know, and popularity of things like crystals and tarot cards and oracle cards, and everybody getting into it. Like, what does that actually mean? I think it's exactly like you're saying, Nicole, to bring it back around. It's that as a whole, we're evolving.
Yeah, and we are evolving always, and it's so exciting. I used to hold the perspective that things were always going to be the same, and I started to get really depressed around winter time, and it was like, oh, winter just is so long, it drags out for such a long time. It's like January is the longest month, and March is even worse, and I guess February is in there too. And then what I had a friend say to me once, like, just you can't assume that things are always going to be the same. And I was like, what? Really? And so that was maybe when I first kind of started to consciously or set some intentions about that things can change and be different, and just be open to that a little bit. So it's interesting to look back, because I've just had these like little openings throughout the years of a little bit wider and wider perspective, and realizing that I do have more control in my life and all of those things. And then it's super fascinating now where I can just be so open and expansive and excited for whatever's to come through, and know that I can change and create reality. Of course, that came with a lot of healing as well along the way, because we have to have power to, comes a lot of power with that, I suppose, and had to earn that responsible creator being power through the years. Yeah. I just wanted to say, first of all, though, happy birthday. And I had such a beautiful time on Saturday celebrating and having brunch with you and dreaming into all the things that we're going to create. It's going to be amazing. Such a beautiful day to celebrate. And also so interesting, as we were talking about holding those two perspectives, like an hour before a couple hours before I was going to meet with you, I found out my grandpa passed away earlier that morning. And you're like, you do not have to push through, don't worry. I'm like, but I want to come. And I think it'll create more for me. So it was really interesting to experience that I was able to hold that grief and that feeling of sadness of finding out about my grandpa, and also celebrate you at the same time, because that's like two opposite ends of the human spectrum of emotion. And that's what it is when we have that perspective, like when, like you said, talked about being that witness, like I was witnessing that grief be there, and it had a little place in my heart, and also the joy and celebration of getting to go out and have brunch and celebrate with one of my best friends. And it's so beautiful to be at that place where all of those things can exist all at the same time.
Yeah, just breathing that in. It was beautiful to watch your heart hold all of that. And I think that's really, yeah, just a really great example, a real-time example of being a multi-dimensional human and being able to zoom out and zoom in and make choices about where you're focusing your energy as to what would be the highest and best. And under no circumstances were you like just bypassing the grief or ignoring it, right? You were holding it and going. Also, you asked the question, would this create more for me to go? So I was like, please don't come just because you feel bad. Because let me backtrack a tiny bit. I had decided that in light of, everything that was happening in the world, last year, I wasn't able to do anything. We couldn't hang out with anybody in our places and spaces in Edmonton. And I didn't really want to throw a big party because now my nervous system also, well, first off, I don't think we're allowed to, but I don't know what's going on with that. But my nervous system would have been a little overwhelmed if it was just like big party. I didn't want that. I'm like, I really like these little pockets of experiences. So I was like, I want to spend time with just a few friends in different pockets. And we planned a beautiful goddess brunch with Nina and a few other close friends. And she was sick. And so being in integrity, she wasn't going to like invite us over and be like, hey, share my germs, even though she's pretty sure it's allergies, but we're going to send her a little love. And that's why she's not on here with us today. So my human side was like, I am disappointed. And I had to sit with that for a little bit of like, I am sad. I was really looking forward to this. And my higher galactic part that's very strong was like, something even better is coming. Don't worry. It'll be perfect. It'll be fine. And I was like, shh, let me be sad for a minute. Okay. I was looking forward to this dance party. Like, shh, let me be sad for, like 10 minutes. And then I go, what do I want instead? What would be possible? And I was like, and Nicole's like, I'm still good. I was like, let's do brunch. I was going to have brunch with my husband on the Sunday, but I wanted to go to a plant-based cafe called The Moth here in Edmonton that he just wouldn't appreciate the same way that I know Nicole does. And so it wound up being something even freaking better, right? It wound up for me and Nicole being the exact perfect experience. We got to just talk and really connect. And it had been a while that we had just connected without talking about work stuff, just in that friend way. Although, of course, we talked about work and the dreams and the things we're co-creating, but our hearts were so full and it was so perfect. But I still was like, don't come just because everybody else couldn't make it to the party. Don't feel bad for me. I'll be fine. So it was all of it, all together, all of the feelings. And of course, something even better came through with it. And, we're going to do this dance party some other time this weekend. And I'm hoping someone that couldn't make it before will be able to come now. And so it's going to be, again, even better, but we still have to hold the feelings of the human perspective and the experience and the freaking mess of it, like the feelings and feel the feels, so that it doesn't have to get stuck in our system.
Yeah, because usually it usually does always work out even better. And it feels like it can be, I know when I first started really you were the first person that really exposed me to multidimensionality and being a multidimensional being. And I understood that from the level that I did at the time, but I was like, I was trying to figure it out from my mind level, like, how do I manage the emotions and the feelings and the seeing the higher perspective? And that was my mind trying to sort out, how do we be a multidimensional being? And then, so along the way, I finally learned we don't do it from the mind level. The mind is there to help process, and it plays a role, but it's not like the engine. It's not the main driver anymore. And it's, yeah, it really comes with really being able to witness what's happening in your body, really being able to be that, yeah, that witness, that observer, finding that awareness of what is happening within your field and just doing what's in front of you and not trying to consciously like, okay, I gotta like check it off. Gotta check off my feelings now. I gotta check off this. And like, you know, coming at it from the thinking mind is very stressful and overwhelming. But when you can drop into your body, into your heart, and then connect body, mind, heart, and soul, it all just happens and it all just is. And you just get to like flow with the energies of it. And if you're doing the next right thing that's in front of you, or if you're doing the thing that's in front of you, if you're acknowledging what's there, like acknowledging those feelings, you're never going to do anything wrong. And in fact, if you are not paying attention to those things and not doing what's in front of you, it's just going to prolong the process and make it more difficult, which isn't good or bad, but I'm on the journey where I just want to expand infinitely as fast as I can while holding space for myself to, you know, have the integration time like yesterday I did, for example, of somehow managed to stay in bed till 12 and which was amazing. My daughter Aurora kept coming in my room and I'm like, oh, mommy needs some more time still. She's like, I'm gonna go get daddy to bring up your breakfast so you can eat your breakfast in bed. I'm like, you're amazing. She carried it up for me. It was awesome. And yeah, she had a really slow day and I'm really feeling those, like partly I'm sure it was processing the grief and all of that stuff, but also the eclipse. I feel like there's a lot going on there with this time of year. So I'm curious how, I mean, yesterday was your birthday, so you're probably in a bit of a different vibration and stuff than I was, but yeah, did you feel anything from the eclipse coming through?
Yeah, actually yesterday I was really excited to have a very restful day, which was also your like advent calendar thing. So super apt, super potent. And I did all of my friend stuff and going to see a movie, The Eternals, with my husband, which was amazing, by the way, tons of codes. I just didn't even get out of my pajamas. I got to sleep in because my daughter went for a sleepover at her auntie's house, and it was so nice to just have no agenda, to just rest and be chill and not have a single feeling of, oh, I should. I was like, I don't have to do anything. It's my birthday. My husband went out for coffee. My husband went out and fetched lunch. She's like, what do you want to do? You want to go out? You want to do anything? And I was like, I don't want to do anything. And it was so good. And I needed that integration time. And I felt that today too. Like I felt a little more slow moving, like there was a lot of pieces that were integrating, but moving up to the eclipse, there was so much feeling of letting go, of holding on to things that I had been fine to take with me up until this point, because I mean, we've had a few years of letting go, but there was a few things that just wouldn't be able to squeeze through the eclipse portal with me that were holding back my energy. Some of it was about habits and behaviors. Some of it was about authenticity and what I wanted to create in the new. And it was very, very energetically expansive when I had lunch with you and with all of my friends. And then it was like, yes, I need to just be, to integrate, because when we're pulled through a portal like the eclipse, it takes the body a bit of time to catch up with everything that's transpired. So I 100% felt that. And I did not want to move very fast today or yesterday. And I feel like tomorrow will be another one of those days where it's like slow and steady. The big to-do list can wait, and I'm going to take care of the essentials. And in the morning, honestly, today, I was like, I don't want to do an illumination chat. I just don't want to show up. I think I need a day off. But you know what I offered myself? A nap. Even though it didn't make sense because I'd gotten a great sleep the night before, I could have pushed through. But I was like, no, I need to just lay down. And I was getting heavier and heavier at my desk when I was trying to do some stuff and pieces in the Monday morning thing. And I'm like, I'm just going to go lay down. And I hadn't even closed my eyes. And I was in a meeting and there were aspects of my multidimensionality there that wanted to come through and show me some stuff. And I was like, okay, right. When I feel that heaviness, when I feel that energy, instead of pushing through, if I go and lay down, it's like my spirit has stuff it needs to do. And they were like, birthday portal things. Here, we want to show you this, and we want to show you this, and we want to show you all of these different aspects of you that are busy at work doing these things and all of the potentials and all of this. And then I fell asleep and I woke up and felt freaking amazing. So sometimes we really need to get out of our own way and just accept what is and be. And then you're like, ooh, I didn't notice that. I didn't know, but a new perspective opens up. So it ties in perfectly with what we were saying today.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, again, because if our minds are trying to run the show, or your mind's like, it's Monday, I need to do my socials, I need to do all my things that I normally do. And this time of year is so interesting because like, I think this slowing down energy, at least for the Northern Hemisphere for us, is going to continue through the solstice period and probably maybe after that too, because will be in official winter then, even though it's been like, already wintry here for a month or so. Yeah, it's so interesting to really learn to live with the seasons. And winter has always been a challenge for me to actually slow down and honor that. And I'm still learning how to actually do that. But you're right, when we listen and get out of the mind and learn to trust what our body is telling us, what our heart is telling us, and can go into that soul space, it is so beautiful when we're, giving ourselves what we need. Yesterday, part of the reason I was staying in bed for so long is because I'm like, I need to stay in bed so that I'm not tired anymore. And then I stood up for something and I'm like, oh, maybe I actually need to move my body a little bit. So I just sat in my bed and then stretched a little bit, made some more space, and was really slow. And that actually helped me not feel so exhausted by the tiredness. And yeah, this morning also, I was still feeling that slow energy too, and did the Align and Design day 6 that we're doing in our playground, which was really beautiful. Not remembering what it is at the moment, but I know that I liked it. Oh, it was the love one. Such a beautiful practice. And then I found another meditation after that so I spent like a half an hour this morning just showering myself in the codes and feelings of love and sharing love with me. It was gorgeous. And then did a really slow dance and did a beautiful little walk in the forest today. So yeah, I'm really feeling that call to balance the doing and the being and kind of only do the essential things right now. And if anybody's watching live or on the replay, let us know if you're feeling that too. And also, if you are feeling that, it's not abnormal. We do need to give ourselves that time to rest and integrate and slow down. And we've talked about this in illumination before, but that's when we actually get to digest the information and have it become us. If we're not taking that time to slow down and to just be, then we're missing all the work that you're doing. You're not really integrating it and allowing it to become you if you don't take that time. So it is like an imperative part of the process that we actually do slow down and start to listen.
Yeah, I've said this before, but it always bears repeating. I used to think there was something wrong with me when I needed integration time. I thought I was failing at life, but now I understand how essential that is. But I really, I'm a fiery person. I love doing all the things, but you can't have fire moving all the time and action. It just burns out of control and then you burn out. So learning how to do the actions, do the expansions, and then integrate was so profoundly important for me. I also had to dismantle some of the capitalist propaganda about production and everything like that, and about how rest is actually productive. But working with the elements, I'm just realizing as I'm speaking into fire, was actually, I think, one of my first forays into multidimensionality. And it kept really explaining it to me in a very clear way about how we can be more than one thing at once. And all of these different perspectives are true. So when we work with the elements that I work with in this more westernized system, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit represent the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the action realm. And with all of those pieces, everything under all of creation, both in us and in the external world, is held. And so when I started to really explore that different elements could have different perspectives of the same thing at the same time, it's like, oh, yeah. So my heart can be feeling one way about an event, while my mind is feeling one thing, and while my spirit is feeling another one. And another way that really landed for me was when I learned how to look at a natal chart, an astrological chart, and see all these different aspects of self that have different signs. So really quickly, I won't get into the whole thing, but like my sun is in Sagittarius, my moon is in Leo. I have a whole bunch of other signs in earth signs, Capricorn and Taurus. And each one of those aspects of myself has a particular lens that it sees the world through, a particular perspective. And if I can offer them all an opportunity to sit at table in council together and come to some compromises, come to some agreements so that everybody feels listened to and heard, then I can get stuff done. And it's easier for me just because I happen to have this chart where like earth and fire can work pretty well together as long as they're in balance and they're communicating. But sometimes, you know, like water and air can really like have a hard time working together and getting things done. Sometimes, you know, all of the elements can clash. It just depends on what's coming through. Too much earth will put fire out, right? It just gets to be this opportunity for us to look at all of the different parts of ourselves and how do they feel about things, right? You can even go into like, how does my divine masculine side feel about this? How does my divine feminine? What about my inner child? What's my inner child feeling? Even though my brain is like, oh yeah, this is fine, right? This is fine. This is all for the highest and best. And soul is like, everything is happening according to plan, right? They can all hold different perspectives. None of them are right or wrong. Each one of them is important and they're coming together to give you the full picture.
I love that. None of them are right or wrong is so important. I think that's what really the gift of the higher perspective is realizing that there's nothing wrong. That's also a super trauma informed perspective as well, that there's nothing wrong. You can't do things the wrong way because we can be so hard on ourselves and judge ourselves that we make ourselves wrong all the time about so many things, or at least I used to do that. I can catch myself when I am doing it still now, but before that was like the cause of so much of my anxiety, is making myself wrong and shooting all over myself and all of that stuff. But you're right, when you're able to work in harmony, and I love also how you said about giving them all a seat at the table, all of those different parts of yourself, and not making them, any of them, more important than the other. That's such a beautiful way to work within yourself. And oh my God, so because everything reflects the macrocosm and the microcosm, if you're doing that internally, can we create a whole world where everybody gets a seat at the table? And yeah, where everybody is equally valued, and it's such a beautiful feeling to vision into that. And you know, some of the things that we speak into in here is really, it can be challenging because I know not everybody has the same perspective of things. And I think I'm thinking into privilege And as a cisgendered white woman, I have a lot more privilege than some people do. So I think about like speaking into manifestation sometimes and how you can co-create your life. I'm like, oh, I feel like that is going to rub some people the wrong way because they're like, well, yeah, look at your privilege of all the things that you have created. And I'm like, yes, that's there. And I acknowledge that. Like, I definitely do have more privilege than other people. And also, I don't have the most privilege in the world either. So it's just really fascinating to be able to try to speak into what I do, respecting other people's perspectives on that, and also trying to show that there is a way to I'm like just feeling like I'm wanting to like lift the veil and pull people up to that higher perspective, because yeah, all this stuff happening in the physical world is real and true. Like it's being illuminated now, and somebody also needs to be there to create the new structures and systems so that as we move into this new level of consciousness and awareness, that as we're doing, these new things are in place so that the structure is there and the fields are there already.
Yeah, I always really deeply appreciate when you bring a trauma-informed approach and also the perspective of privilege. And it's true. I mean, I've got a lot of privilege, and, you know, speaking into manifestation, and creation. I much prefer creation than manifestation anyway, because it gives the agency and empowerment back to you. But I like to talk about it in terms of co-creation. What are you creating with everybody, and what is the reality? And I think that's the thing. Responsible co-creation is if you have privilege, using it to co-create with others that aren't at that space yet, right? To support them, whether it's for children, for animals, for people that are, you know, unable to create that space right now, for the earth. Like you get to choose sort of where the focus gets to be, and also do so unapologetically, right? The more money I make, the more that I can support, right? The more money I manifest, the more money I create in my business, the more clients I have, the more I can support. And also that's like why we have things like the playground that are like the amount of work we put into that and the amount of money that we get for that are not compatible. But having really accessible materials to teach this stuff, to give people the support of what it could be, is really freaking important to us, right? It also is why in the evolutionary alchemy system that we work with in the playground and that we teach, why transformation is the very first thing, right? We cannot create, we cannot manifest, we cannot access our intuition and all of our logic and reason and skills and all of that when we are stuck in physical, emotional, and mental traumas and loops, and when the body is not safe or when people are not safe. So literally the first step in any kind of creation and manifestation is to shift whatever needs to be shifted. And I love that there are so many resources available to people right now, and that everything is being illuminated so that we can see as well what we were blind to, right? 20 years ago, the conversation about privilege wouldn't have been happening, at least not in any of the circles that I, you know, have run in. And so we're doing the best that we can as our perspective is growing. And there's always going to be times that we mess up, right? And that we misspeak, that we maybe speak from a place of our perspective and our privilege as opposed to what someone else would do. But also how, like, until you've been in someone else's shoes, it's very difficult to actually know their perspective, right? Which is why I love that we are multidimensional and that we are infinite beings, and that there are aspects of our oversoul that are incarnated in across all spaces and times and places, and that there are past lives where we've had experiences that we can like draw on, and coming into our full multidimensionality allows us to bring forward the wisdom and the lessons without necessarily having to draw on the trauma and the pain of those lessons, right? And we're all going through this process of healing all of the Akashic traumas and loops and all of that that are keeping us stuck as well. So it is healing all the way up and all the way down right now. And that makes it so freaking hard, which is also why integration time is important. People are healing family lineages, epigenetic curses, akashic loops, things that have been keeping families stuck for generations. It is a lot. And we're never going to be able to do it all, which could bring us to a space of, well, why even bother? If I can't help everyone, why even bother? And it's like, well, first off, you don't have to do it all. Who told you that? And also, you don't have to do it alone. When I look around, especially in my personal life and in my social media feed, not the news, but like the friends that I'm friends with, strangers, they're all doing amazing, amazing things to heal themselves and let it ripple out into the world, to create art, to inspire, to give back. It absolutely makes me cry sometimes when I look at the beauty of what humans are capable of. I also have cried at the sorrow that humans hold and the heinous things that humans are capable of as well. And holding all of that multidimensionally and seeing the potential and the possibility is how we expand and grow the most.
That's why I loved our conversation at brunch on Saturday, because just my heart was just blown wide open from feeling all the feels and just being in awe of how beautiful the human experience is. And I get to be here now and know love enough that I can be sad about it because someone's gone from my life now. Well, I giggle as I say that because of course I can connect multidimensionally as well. And my mom was telling me, she's like, it's really okay. You don't have to feel like you need to come to the funeral because it's really far away and she doesn't want us traveling on the winter roads and all of that stuff. And I'm like, well, and if there's anybody that can connect energetically and spiritually to say goodbye to my grandpa, it's probably me. She's like, yes. So I don't need to physically be there, and they're live streaming it, I found out also. So yeah, I already actually connected with them anyways. So it's all good. But it's like tapping back into that wonder and awe of like what it is to be human that we were speaking about last week, of like how beautiful and sacred it is to feel all of these feelings, to hold them all, and then to connect and dream into like the potential of what it is that we can create. I just loved you guys for I cannot wait to share everything with you that we are dreaming into right now and planting seeds for. It's going to be such an amazing 2022. There's just so much expansion and possibility available for us, for all of us. And if you limit yourself and don't ever allow yourself to dream or tap into that, like, I almost want to say you're doing yourself a disservice. It's so potent to create. And we were talking about at our brunch, like, you know, being mothers, we got to really be creators and embody creation and create like a being. It's just so magical and we can create so much. I'm getting into that like feeling state, and the words are hard, but it feels so good. So I'm hoping that that wonder and awe of our creator state of beingness is being transmitted as you're watching this.
Yeah, it's a feeling, but that feeling is only possible, you know, through the transformation of the hard stuff, of all the pain that we've been through. You know, no human arrives into this world and spends much time in it without having pain, without having problems and challenges and things to heal from, at least now. But I feel like right now that's currently kind of the point, to be able to learn and grow, especially the change makers, the visionaries, the light workers, the leaders, the conscious creators came and they were like, okay, I need to get up to speed on how this planet operates. So they're like, let me just give myself a masterclass of challenges so that I can really alchemize those quickly and then be able to ripple it out to heal it and change the world. So it's been really intense for a lot of us, right? And there's so much possibility to dream into, and that's what it feels like we're able to do now. And so I want to invite people to let this be a dreamy phase from now, from the eclipse to the 12/12 portal to the solstice. Like, let it be dreamy. Let it be about possibility, and let us know how you feel about it. I feel like I'm complete with talking about all of that, because I just feel like I need to go actually now and sit and actually just dive into that feeling before I pick my daughter up. It's a lot harder I can get into the present with her, but it's hard to sit and meditate with my eyes closed. So thank you, everybody that has been watching. If you are on YouTube watching this, you should like and subscribe. I think that would be fun, because we have amazing conversations on here. And there's always more to come. If you are part of the Radiant Evolution Collective watching this in our beautiful free Facebook group, know that we have some exciting stuff coming up the pipeline for you, especially in the new year, as Nicole alluded to. And we are sending you all so much love. Any final thoughts, Nicole?
Yeah, I just want to say, Artis is watching. Thank you, Artis, for being here. And yeah, life is changed. There's so many changes, and now working on my dream, making my dream become reality. I just want to say, and so it is. And so it will be. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, beautiful souls. I always love these conversations. They always fill my heart. So I appreciate you being here, tuning in every week, and we will talk to you soon. I'm also feeling that dreamy energy of and just needing to sit in it. And I feel like that is my that is my goal for this month, is to just allow myself to be in that beingness and enjoy.
Yeah, I notice it's coming through, and like spirit wants to just like share an activation, and it gets really hard to open my eyes, and I just want to like sit and bask in the energy. So I'm going to do that too. We'll send you all some of that love, and we'll talk soon.